Yashodanandana Prabhajanarandana Yamuna Manatari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Prabhupada, Srila Premanande. Hare Krishna, dear souls. So maybe we can turn the fan on and close the door. We're just getting there. It's really stuffy in here when it came in. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishubhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhana Namane Ashesha Klesha Nashaya Paramananda Daine Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mare Kabando Matsangin Mad Guru Manmadana Madnistaraka Madbhagya Marananda Namostite Asaru saru tadayan atini chotata karahana muncha karachinmam primaritkatayos. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Namaskritanam Jaiva Narotamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadevaya Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavaduna Ishtiki. Can we hear about what we did last week? Anything thoughts on last week's class? The things we talked about?
Where did you end up?
Omar?
Seems like we talked mainly about how the loving devotional services should be like our main goal in life, and that our life is meant to inquire about the absolute truth.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about like the stages of bhakti.
Yeah, we talked about the stages of bhakti. That was the main thing we really discussed last week. Went a little bit over really basically, we went over the stages of bhakti. Anything else?
I think we went over how one develops an affinity for him with certain beliefs.
Yes, we talked about verse 16. We said, how do we develop that affinity for hearing from devotees? Serving devotees. So by serving great souls, one develops an affinity for hearing Krishna Katha. Simple as that. Anything else?
We also talked about how like everything you do, you have to do it in service to Krishna. In
Right.
whatever position.
Everything we do in service to Krishna. All of our occupational duties are done in service to Krishna. We also talked about how one takes whatever they're doing, and by the guidance of the devotees and the spiritual master, one makes their life bhakti. And I think we ended on verse 21. Yeah, we ended on verse 21. And so now we're on verse 22. And we'll finish this chapter today, and we might even finish chapter 3. Chapter 3 is an easy one. Mostly we'll just be reading it. So we talked about the stages of bhakti, which I'll just briefly review on that. So the first stage is Satam Kripa. We have to do the mercy of the devotee. This is the 14 stages, also known as Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. Satam Kripa, first thing someone does when they get Krishna consciousness is they get the causeless mercy of a devotee. Somehow or another they taste prasadam, they hear the holy name, they get a book, something happens, and then they come in contact with this Krishna's internal energy, his personal energy. And then from that they hear Mahat Seva. Mahat Seva means they serve the devotees, primarily by hearing from them, by listening to the devotees. That's Mahat Seva. And from that Seva, from that hearing from the devotees, one develops faith in Krishna. And then from strong faith, one develops Guru Padashraya. That means now one wants to accept a guru. And we've seen, so many of you have come and experienced that process, right? You've seen how that happens. Starts with Mahat Seva, and then you do some seva, you do some hearing, now you have faith, now all of a sudden I want a guru. And then Bhajaneshu Spriya, he becomes eager to worship the Lord. And then anarthas start being removed. Then one develops bhakti at the stage of anartha nivriti and nishta. Anartha pagamam, all the inauspicious things are destroyed from the heart. One attains nishta, one becomes steady in their devotional service. From that part, one develops ruchi, he develops taste in the chanting of the holy name, and then he develops attachment. And then rati, spontaneous attachment. Prema, he develops love for Krishna, and then he goes on deeper, and one develops darshanam, one sees Krishna face to face, and then har madhurya anubhava, one experiences directly the Lord's sweetness and enters into the conjugal relationship with the Lord. That's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's expression of bhakti. And all that actually begins with this Mahat Seva, but real Raga Bhakti, or that spontaneous love, doesn't develop until one is realizing first and foremost they're not this body. Right? We hear Brahmabhuta Prasanatma Nasotati Nakanchati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. The Bhagavad Gita 1855, Krishna explains that Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, one who realizes themselves as Brahmabhuta, who realizes themselves as spirit, he becomes prasan, he becomes, Prabhupada says, always jolly. He becomes always jolly. A devotee means jolly and fearless. Devotees are jolly and fearless. And so such a jolly person, he doesn't desire nor lament, and he sees all living entities with an equal eye. He no longer makes these distinctions between friend and enemy. Basically, his only service is, I'm a friend of everybody because every person I meet, I'm trying to spiritually elevate them. And I act in such a way. And therefore, in that state of being, one develops pure love for Krishna. So that happens after the stage of Anartha Vritti, once we become nice and purified. Nishta, that's basically, we're basically on the spiritual platform. We're not necessarily developed love of God yet, but that's where we come. And then we went through, and then the last verse we did was Vidyate Hrade Grantis, thus the knot in the heart is pierced. I've been listening to a lot of Srila Prabhupada lectures. What is that knot in the heart? Anybody know? You can guess that. What's the knot in the heart? Sex life, yeah. Knot in the heart is the attachment to this body. It doesn't just mean sex life like in terms of just like gross sex life between man and woman or same sex. It means also subtle sex. Prabhupada defines subtle sex as this desire for fame, profit, adoration, and distinction. Right? It's this actual desire. And then we understand from the creation, which we'll go through how the creation takes place, why the material creation takes place, that in the material world, the materialistic sex is one of the basis of this world. And it's one of the root causes for our identifying with the material body. And it's just a manifestation. The gross thing that we see as reproductive systems and so forth, that's just a manifestation of the living entity's desire to be away from Krishna. And so the modes of material nature make so many different, forms and, manifestations of this desire, which is ultimately the desire to want to be adored like God. And of course, in the spiritual world, this sexual energy is there, the energy of pleasure, and the energy, the desire, the intense desire to experience pleasure is there, and to avoid pain. That's called Anandamaya Vyasat. That exists in the spiritual world, but it's not manifested the same way. The energy is there, but it's manifested through pure love. And so one who elevates their consciousness via the process of Krishna consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna and by rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such a person begins to experience such a higher taste, higher pleasure, that they lose taste for lower pleasures. So the knot in the heart is pierced. All misgivings are cut to pieces. Thus the chain of karma is terminated when one sees the self as master. So one sees the self. He actually understands himself. And when you say the self, it's kind of an interesting, super soul self. One sees the self as master. The chain of karma is terminated. At that stage, one's fully purified. And then we're on verse 22. So I'll have Govinda Madhava, you can read 22. You can try the Sanskrit if you like.
Ato vai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramaya mura vasudeve bhagavati kurvantyatma prasadanam.
Okay.
Certainly, therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering devotional service to Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with great delight.
With great delight.
With great delight. As such devotional service is enlivening to the self.
So this is expressing that all the transcendentalists and the great sages and the fully enlightened beings since the beginning of time, they've engaged in this process, and Krishna confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita when he says, great sages and saints, rendered transcendental service to me, and thus they attained transcendental love to me. So this is the process, and what do we hear? We hear, Evam parampara praptam imam rajasaho vidu sakalaneha mahata yogo nasta parantapaha. Krishna explains that this knowledge is coming in disciplic succession and was handed down through saintly kings in the beginning. This is knowledge. This is the original knowledge that one should render loving service to the original personality of Godhead and thus enliven the self. And one of the points that's made by our acharyas is that all transcendentalists have been rendering devotional service with great delight because such devotional service is enlivening to the self. And even in sadhana, even the beginning stage, there's great delight in devotional service. Like you're all here hearing, some are newer, some are more advanced. I think Jamun has been a devotee longer than all of us, actually, technically, right? So some of us are more advanced, some of us are less advanced. But in any case, it's enlivening. Just the chanting Hare Krishna is enlivening, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is enlivening to the self, because the soul it becomes attached to this Krishna Katha, because it's who we are. We're meant to be speaking about Krishna. Last week in the After Nectar session, which was really nectar, me and Govinda Madhava Prabhu were speaking about how we hear about the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna and the gopis, and we're told that we don't jump to that level. However, we're doing the very same thing that they're doing. We're speaking about Krishna with great delight. You have something in the purport you read that's interesting, Govinda? You're reading a little bit. You have an interesting thing to pull out the purport, please.
Nothing's really jumping out. I mean, it's all nectar, right?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does time immemorial imply that Krishna has never been alone?
Krishna has never been alone. But we have to understand there's various manifestations of Krishna. Krishna in the spiritual world, of course, you're as eternal as God, but God is the most eternal. What is the verse? He's the eternal amongst all other eternals. Chaitanas Chaitananam. Nityo Nam Chaitanas Chaitananam. That he's the eternal amongst all other eternals. So you're his energies, just like the sunlight is eternal and the sun is eternal, right? They're connected, but the sunlight is still the source. The sun is still the source of the sunlight. So in the spiritual world, Krishna remains with his associates to enjoy transcendental pleasure, ever-increasing eternal transcendental pleasure. However, he still remains the center, and all the energies are emanating from him, and he's still the supreme controller. But there is a time, whereas the material creation, we experience beginning and end. In the spiritual world, there's no beginning and end. Time is eternal, nitya. But in the material world, there's a sense of beginning and there's a sense of end. And so, aham evasam evagre nanyad yat sarasat param paschahad yat etachcha yovashajesta sosmyaham. This verse was spoken to Brahma. At the beginning of creation, Krishna spoke these words to Lord Brahma. This is the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Aham evasam evagre nanyad yat sarasat param. O Brahma, it was I who existed before the creation. I exist in between the creation, and I exist after the creation. Only I remain. And he says, I am beyond both the cause and the effect. So Krishna is beyond both the cause and the effect of the creation. And therefore, he says, Ratirtam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani. He says that whatever appears to be of value in this material world, if it appears to be valuable, if it's not connected with me, know it to be Maya. Know it to be my Maya. Tadvidyad atmano Maya. Yatabaso yatatamaha. It's Maya. It's a reflection of reality and ignorance. So in the beginning of the material creation, there was Vishnu, and from Vishnu came Brahma, and from Brahma came the other living entities. So that's true. But even Vishnu has an origin in Krishna in the spiritual world, which is eternal. And in that case, Krishna is never alone. Krishna is always enjoying with his associates. Even if Krishna appears to be alone, it's for the pleasure of his devotees. This is what we have to understand, is that there's no static absolute truth. The absolute truth is dynamic. It's static in that it's absolute, in that it remains absolute. But on the absolute platform, Krishna's name, Krishna's prasadam, Krishna's words, they're all manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna's abode, Krishna's sphere of dimension, Krishna's associates there. We can make a differentiation between Krishna and Radha. One is Radha, one is Krishna, but they're both God. They're both God. This is called the Chincha Beta Beta Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. Nice question. So we'll move on. In the previous verse, 1, 2, 6, 21, the glories of Bhakti is described. In this section, we're going into the glory of Bhagavan as the topmost object of worship is established. So we're going to hear about why we worship Bhagavan, why Bhagavan is the most important object of worship. So go ahead and read text 23, Garanga Prem.
Sattvam Rajastama. Oh wait, is
I'll do the
this?
Sanskrit. Sattvam Rajasthama iti prakriti. Oh, Sattvam Rajasthama iti prakritir gunastar yukta para purusha ekahi yasya datte stitya daye harivanchi hariti samagyaha shresyasmi tattva kalu sattvatanor suhu.
The transcendental personality of God is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance. And just for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these three, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of the quality of goodness.
So here's some kind of high level theology we're going to go over here. So most of you have probably heard of Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. Many people say that's the Hindu Trinity. So there's different types of avatars, and we should understand that this is kind of something we should all understand. Most of us do, but we just get to clarify it, that there's three predominating energies in this material world. And when you study these energies, you can become disentangled from the material world. Krishna confirms this by studying the nature of these three energies. There's goodness, sattva, there's passion, rajas, and there's tamas, there's ignorance. And all the animals, all the manifestations, all of the things you see, hear, taste, smell, touch, think, they're all manifestations of these three modes of material nature. And these deities, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Vishnu, are the predominating deities of these modes. Lord Shiva is the predominating deity of tamas, ignorance, and therefore he destroys, and he is the essential representative of entropy. Everybody knows what entropy is? Entropy means that, that factor that basically destroys everything, the end of all things, the degradation of things. That's why we see Lord Shiva covered with ash. Ash represents the end of it. You can't burn ash, right? The only thing that doesn't change is time itself, right? So that time is destroying everything. Therefore, one of Lord Shiva's names is Mahakala, meaning the supreme time. And Krishna says, I am time, but Krishna's time in the form of Lord Shiva, Mahakala. And then there's Brahma, passion, creation. Brahma's very passionate, therefore he creates the universe out of his passion. And then Vishnu maintains. And so we understand that Lord Vishnu is transcendental. He's a manifestation of Vishnu Tattva. He's transcendental. He's non-different from God, although he still acts as a servant of God. And this says, of these, humans can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu. And in the purport to this, Prabhupada gives a little bit of an explanation of how all this works. I'm just going to briefly go over it. It's something that needs to be more or less studied on their own. You can try to take. So the original personality of Godhead is Krishna, all attractive, supreme person, from whence everything came and everything returns to. Aham, evasam eva great, nanyad yat sadasat param. Krishna is beyond everything. And from Krishna emanates Baladev. Baladev is Krishna. This is the same Krishna. But the first thing Krishna manifests is companion of the same level of godhood, but in the mood of a friend or a servant. Therefore, the beginning of this loving relationship begins. Right? Baladev is God in the mood of God's friend, in the mood of God's servant. Servitor God, therefore, Guru is the representative of Baladev. He's teaching us how to serve God. And from Baladev comes the Chaturvyuha, and we hear about this Vasudev, Aniruddha, Sankarshan, and Pradyumna. And I'm not going to go into all the details. This is very technical stuff, and it's very interesting if one wants to study this type of thing, but we're going to move faster. But anyhow, to say the least, from these different expansions eventually comes Mahavishnu, who breathes into the material world this creation. And this is all very sensible, very logical understanding, but it's something that's maybe like Chaitanya Charitamrita class. So or we'll get to Canto 3. If whoever lives till Canto 3, we'll get there. Okay, so we'll go to verse 24.
What is goodness, though?
Sattva is the word in Sanskrit. Goodness is basically it's the energy that preserves. And it's the energy that we can attest it to tranquility, peacefulness, clarity. And one who is situated in the mode of goodness sees things as they are. Right? So here's an example of mode of ignorance. So for instance, who here would drink poison? So alcohol is poisonous, right? Alcohol is poisonous to the body. Yet in the mode of ignorance, when one is influenced by that mode, one is attracted to this type of thing. Therefore, that mode is acting on someone, and therefore they're attracted to a certain thing spontaneously, as if by force. Therefore, they're under the influence of a certain mode. Whereas someone in the mode of goodness, which is what we're cultivating as devotees, we cultivate mode of goodness because the mode of goodness allows us to shoot off into the transcendental sphere. One can see that I don't want to drink alcohol because alcohol is poisonous. Why would I smoke cigarettes? Cigarettes cause lung cancer. We know this. Yet the modes will trick us into thinking this is an enjoyable thing. And so mode of ignorance, those are mode of ignorance things. Mode of passion is fueled by this desire, especially the desire for the opposite sex, that, I have to enjoy. I have to make money. I have to create. This is there. And someone in the mode of goodness sees it for what it is. It's like all the animals, all the plants. This is the energy that's, creating. But someone in the mode of goodness, they're not so affected by that. And even the mode of goodness is a subtle form of conditioning. We're not saying that's the topmost. That's a subtle conditioning. Mode of goodness, people think I'm better than everybody else. That's their problem. They think I have knowledge and I'm happy, and therefore I'm better than everybody else. So we want to go beyond that. And so religious people, they're often like that, holier than thou, right? Oh, look at those guys. They're, we've seen at the temple, right? We've seen people, with that particular mood, the people, criticizing those who are not on my level. It's a type of false ego also, but it's more subtle and it's easier to overcome. And so mode of goodness people are conditioned to happiness, just like mode of ignorance people are conditioned to sleep and intoxication. They're conditioned to happiness, and therefore they also can't see the reality. We find sometimes when you preach to Indians, when you preach to like Latter-day Saints people, Mormons, they're very, very uninterested because they don't want to know anything more than, we had all those nice boys come and they were there, but they're so satisfied in their kind of mode of goodness place that they're not really interested in, I need to make a change in my life, things I'm suffering. They can't realize that even the mode of goodness is a type of suffering. So then there's a higher mode, which is transcendental, called Shuddha Sattva. And that appears when one is a pure devotee. And we hear about that in this verse we already went over. It's explained that let me see here. Yeah. Evam prasana manaso, the mind becomes enlivened by contact with pure devotional service. Prasana manaso, the mind becomes enlivened. This is the stage of bhava, where pure goodness sets in. Bhagavat bhakti yogataha, bhagavat tattva vigyana, mukta sangasya jayate. Such a person who's really doing bhakti on the highest level, he's mukta sangasya jayate. He's completely detached from these material qualities. So that's goodness. And Lord Vishnu is the manifestation of the mode of goodness. We have our Trinity here at the temple also. Mother Sundamini, she's maintaining everything. She's the mode of goodness. And then Gaura Shakti's going around and undoing the things she's doing. And then Dhiro is creating things, and then Gaura Shakti's undoing them. And so this is they're our manifestation of Vishnu, Shiva, and Vishnu.
I've heard people use the analogy of the three primary colors for the three gunas.
Yeah.
And then everything is kind of all other colors are like mixtures of those, so we're operating often multiple gunas. Is that from the Shastra, or does that?
Yes, that's from the third canto.
Oh, okay.
There's three different, yellow. Actually, I've heard white, blue, and red, and I've heard yellow, blue, and red. But I prefer the red, white, and blue because,
Wow.
It's cool. This is the United Modes of America. Red, white, and blue. We're all in the modes. Now we're mostly just blue. We should just turn our flag blue. The white is sinking really slow. The red and the blue are taking over. So, that's the modes.
I have a question.
Yes.
About the modes. So we're all some mixture of the three.
There's all
modes,
mixture,
right?
yeah.
So for devotees that aren't pure devotees, is it okay to have passion in Krishna consciousness? Because it's like Rajagun is like creative, more like creative energy, and we need to like
Yes.
create
So
temples and
we should understand that our material conditioning is irrelevant in a sense when we engage in Krishna's service. Like Arjuna was obviously in the mode of passion to fight. And we see different devotees that may manifest these types of qualities. But when being used in Krishna's service, they're transcendental. And that's why Krishna explains, there's so many verses going in my head, it's hard for me to remember them all. Krishna explains that one who engages in transcendental loving service to me without falling down, sagunan samatityaithan brahmabhuyaya kalpate, bhakti yogena sevate. So one who does bhakti yoga, mamcha yovya vicharena, unflinching, not changing, not deviating, one who's doing devotional service in an unflinching way, mamcha yovya vicharena, bhakti yogena sevate. He's doing bhakti yoga. Therefore, he's sagunan samatityaitan. He's beyond all the modes of material nature. That can mean he's fighting. That can mean he's doing so many different things. He's in the mode of passion. He's in the mode of ignorance. He's in the mode of goodness. Any of these activities, when engaged in the service of the Lord, are sagunan samatityaitan. They're beyond the modes. And therefore, such a person is situated on the Brahman platform. How do we develop that consciousness, one may ask? The answer is by accepting a guru. That's the main point here. People want to make the guru some mysterious thing. The guru is going to give me, going to take all my karma. Yes, that's true. But the main thing the guru does is he trains us up in the service attitude. Right? I spend a lot of time with my spiritual master. And there's a sense that you become trained in the service attitude. And now I'm a servant. I'm a servant. I'm a servant. I'm a servant. That becomes your mentality. And I'm making choices based on what will serve Guru and Krishna, what will serve God. And when that becomes your consciousness, when now my thought process is basically, how am I going to serve God today? Am I going to be in the mode of passion? Sometimes we have to be in the mode of passion, right? We see that I've had to defend the temple from the robbers at different times and places. We're in not the greatest neighborhood. Right? We've been attacked before on Harinam. We've had Rajas, and we've had, sometimes I got to sleep a lot because I'm super tired. That's ignorance, but it's all in the service of Krishna. And so you remain transcendental. And we can even make it more practical for us when you really follow Prabhupada's program. Like, I'm going to chant my rounds nicely. I'm going to read the books every day. I'm going to do some associating with devotees. I'm going to hear some kirtan. I have a very steady spiritual program of sadhana, of spiritual practice. And I do that no matter what. Such a person remains very transcendental. Like our Jagannath Prabhu, Yamuna's dad. He never deviates from his sadhana. And therefore, you see that the world just going on around him. And he just is transcendental to it 99% of the time. So let's move on. Is that cool? So now we're going to hear about goodness. 20, what are we on? 24. I'll read it. Actually, Mohini, read it.
Okay. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood. And fire is still better, for by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas, but goodness, sattva, is best because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth.
So goodness, one can realize the absolute truth. I'll just give a short, brief thing here. We want to cultivate mode of goodness because goodness, sattva gyan, or knowledge in the mode of goodness, leads to bhakti yoga. What is sattva gyan? It means I understand I'm not this body. I see things as they are. Or one in the mode of goodness, he's no longer attracted to a lot of the material things that are so entangling because he sees, I don't want to get involved in that. But we cultivate mode of goodness by rising early, chanting Hare Krishna, taking prasadam, eating, avoiding foods that are in the mode of ignorance, eating foods that are in the mode of goodness. And that way one's consciousness becomes purified and one can see things as they are. One sees as they are. That's how it works.
And when you don't watch TV.
Not too much. Not pretty much, not at all, but I don't, but others may watch a little bit TV. I don't know. But I don't. But I mean, we could be practical. We don't got to be, fanatics and especially at our stage, wherever we're at, we don't want to be hard on ourselves. We do what we can. We do as much as we can. I lost taste for TV when I was like 13, practically. And then I watched the movies and shows that I liked, I would watch. And then, it just in time, I have so many other service things to do that are very much more fulfilling. And I don't really engage in that. Because also what we put in our ears is powerful. That's like the main thing, is like what you put in your ears. Like I listen to lectures, I listen to class, I listen to kirtans, I listen to things like that are going to uplift my consciousness. We love movies if movies are about God consciousness. Like on my birthday 2 years ago, we watched that.
Saint. Yes.
Yeah, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. That was such a good movie, And so, but it's not something, But when we chant Hare Krishna, all this becomes clear. That's the point, is that, just like someone may watch TV, that's one mode, but then there's lower modes of entertainment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even what type of shows you watch, you can go down and down in the deeper modes,
Or music too.
Right? Music.
What did you call it the other day? The Hunters.
Yeah, materialistic music's like the Song of the Hunter, calling the deer to die. Are we good?
Yes.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's
Why
go.
is smoke better than wood?
Well, it's an analogy saying that smoke is like ignorance, or wood is like ignorance, smoke is like passion, and fire is like goodness. So the best, fire is the best. 25. I'll read it in English. Previously, all the great sages rendered service unto the personality of Godhead due to his existence above the three modes of material nature. They worshipped him to become free from material conditions and thus derive ultimate benefit. Whoever follows such great authorities is eligible for liberation from the material world. Quick purport. The purpose of performing religion is neither to profit by material gain nor to gain the simple knowledge of discerning matter from spirit. The ultimate aim of religious performances is to release oneself from material bondage and regain the life of freedom in the transcendental world, where the personality of Godhead is the supreme person. So what this is saying is that we have to follow the real religious authorities who were rendering devotional service to Krishna, to the God, as they say in India. The God, that's what they say. They don't say God, they say the God. By rendering devotional service to God, who is above material conditioning, one gains that quality. Because devotional service, God's service, and God are absolute, right? God's name and God are absolute. God's service and God are absolute. God's prasadam and God are absolute. God's son and God are absolute. And so the service of God is also absolute. So when you engage in devotional service with the proper consciousness, and you do that constantly, you're always in the association of Krishna. That's a realization that one can have as they do devotional service. Omar Prabhu.
So when you say the word Krishna, does that contain the entire material and spiritual manifestation within it?
Yes.
It's not different.
Yes.
Like everything, all the energies, all of it.
You can't necessarily say, Krishna Lord Chaitanya says, I've invested all my transcendental potencies in my name. And that's an experience one can have.
So like when you say it, there's a little kirtan in there. It's like,
yes.
That's all.
Yes. This Krishna Katha is not different. The holy name, there's a purport Prabhupada says that the holy name is it puts you in the center of creation when you chant. You can chant in such a way that you're in the center of creation. Prabhupada says it synchronizes all the energies of the universe around you. So that's pretty powerful stuff. Okay. All right, 26. Yamuna?
Those who are serious about liberation are constantly non-envious.
Certainly non-envious.
Certainly non-envious, and they respect all. Yet they reject the horrible and ghastly forms of the demigods and worship only the all-blissful forms of Lord Vishnu and his plenary portions.
People are going to be offended. Prabhupada says, why is Sutta Goswami calling them ghastly? So we just are seeing that Sutta Goswami is making this point that those who are really interested in becoming free from the spiritual, from material bondage, they worship God. They don't worship anybody else. They worship God and God's absolute manifestation. So people go to demigods and various other deities of so many sorts for purposes. And they may get their purposes, but that's not going to give them liberation from material suffering. Therefore, Krishna explains that those who worship the demigods are less intelligent, and those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods. Yanti Deva Vrata, you know the verse? Yanti Deva Vrata Devam Pitrin Yanti Pitrivata Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajinopimam. And if you worship the demigods, you go to the planets of the demigods. If you worship the ancestors, you go to the planets of the ancestors. If you worship ghosts and spirits, you go to such beings. And if you worship me, you come to me. Pretty simple. Whatever we're cultivating in this life, we're creating our next destination. Fair enough? Some people worship dog, some people worship God.
Good morning, I see people worshiping God.
I know it's your whole. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with having a dog,
No, it's not.
but
In fact, there's a really good point that someone made. If someone's in the mode of tamas and a dog gets them out of that mode, then it's progress.
yeah, that's what the mode of passion is, the cure of the mode of ignorance. So sometimes you have a lazy brahmachari and you have to tell him, you got to get married, dude. Now you can get in the mode of passion and you get out of it. You know, you have to start working and start taking responsibilities for wife and children. And then they're, you know, they rectify their consciousness. You know, that's why actually responsibility is a necessary thing in all devotional service. We have to come to the stage of responsibility. It's important. Take responsibility for something. Then it helps you. You have to have responsibility, meaning you'll either be responsible for helping living entities come back to Godhead. That's what the renunciates do. Or you have to be responsible for helping a little family come back to Godhead. But in any way, you have to take responsibility. That's service. It's important. It's like Krishna consciousness is so simple in so many ways. It means just grow up. But none of us do. It's very difficult to grow up. I think these people, the devotees practically, I was at the university, right? You know, I had top of my class. I was valedictorian. I was like, I was on the way, I ended up meeting the devotees and I've learned so much. I see my friends, they're becoming doctors now and stuff. And it's like, well, I spent, 6 years meditating for 2 hours a day and studying, the scriptures and hearing from sages. And, you really taste it. It's not that this is a useless education. Devotional education is so important. This is spiritual. This is who you really are. And I'm always happy. Some people say it's like, stupid people, right? I think that intelligence means you avoid suffering. You can actually not suffer. You're intelligent enough to not be suffering all the time, right? But then I have all the papers on my wall, but I'm suffering all the time. I've not figured out how to stop suffering yet. So Krishna, therefore, what does the Bhagavatam say? It says, in the most proverbial verse in the Bhagavatam, that those who have brain substance in the age of Kali, they will worship the personality of Godhead, who appears in a form not blackish but golden, and comes with his associates and chants the holy name of the Lord. So those who worship Lord Chaitanya, intelligent people worship Lord Chaitanya. And if you've been around the Krishna consciousness movement a long time, you find people who are like super geniuses. My teacher in Mayapur, he quit his job at NASA to be a monk. He's the type of person who solves math problems in his dreams. No, seriously, he does. Not joking. He passed the highest IIT exams by doing math problems in his dreams. He's but anyways, he understands the higher reality. So, okay. 27. Govind, who hasn't read yet? Omar?
Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship those in the same category, namely the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny.
So here we're hearing about the modes again. We can hear that people are attracted to certain deities based on the modes. therein, because by worshiping certain deities, one gets certain benefits. Someone who's in the mode of goodness tends to worship demigods. Someone who's in the mode of pure goodness or wanting transcendence tends to worship Krishna or God. Someone who's in the mode of ignorance tends to worship ghosts, spirits, Satan, these types of religion. So religion, whatever beings they are, they're worshiping what they're attracted to, because they have certain desires, right? The modes make us desire. It's one of the big things we should understand is we're thinking we want this, but we're not. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahamkara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Bhagavad Gita verse 327, Krishna explains that those who are bewildered by false ego, what does false ego means? I think I'm this body. Those who think they're this body think themselves the doer of activities that are in actuality born of the three modes of material nature. So we're thinking, I want this, but it's actually all conditioning. And our consciousness is just being pulled along by this wave that's pushing us. We didn't choose where we're born. We didn't choose who we associate with. It's all conditioning. And therefore that conditioning is just pushing us. This is even psychologists know this, right? It's our trauma conditioning. It's pushing us a certain way. But that's just the modes of material nature. You can change that. How many topics are there in Bhagavad Gita? What are the topics? God, Ishvara, actually. The Jiva, God, the soul, time,
The modes,
the material nature,
and
karma. Which one of those can we change? Only we can change one. We can't change time. We can't change material nature. We can't change God. We can change karma. So we think like I'm forced to do something. I'm forced. I'm attracted to alcohol. I'm attracted to sex. I'm attracted to this. I'm attracted to that. Arjuna asks, right? He asks Krishna, why is one impelled to sinful activity as if by force?
Well, would you say that's the same question that Paul was asking in the Romans?
You have to enlighten me.
When he's like, yeah, the things I want to do, I do not do. The things I do, I don't want to do. It's kind of like that same.
Well, the idea is there that Arjuna asks, why am I forced to sinful activities as if impelled? But Krishna gave an extremely enlightening answer. He says, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born from contact with the material mode of passion, and which burns like fire and is never satiated. It burns like fire and is never satiated. So we should understand that if we want to change our consciousness, we have to change our association. Like yesterday I spent, how many hours? Probably 6-7 hours just cleaning my space. It was already clean, but I cleaned it deeply, organized it deeply. Like, sometimes I actually think, there's a point where I get overwhelmed. I think, I gotta call Radha. She gotta come help me. But, then this morning my japa was just stellar, flying, because the space was more in the mode of goodness. And so if you associate with the mode of goodness, if you associate with those who are in the mode of goodness, if you associate with the times of the day that are mode of goodness, foods that are the mode of goodness, people in the mode of goodness, you become mode of goodness. You can change. We can change our karma based on that. So depending on what mode we're in, we're forced to act a certain way. Just like, at one point I was very addicted to intoxication. Loved it. It was my life, Yeah, let's do it. But, right, associating with devotees and experiencing, there's a higher taste. Now, all of a sudden, those things, I don't have any taste for them. It just doesn't even compute. And the same way, like all of the material desires, up to lust, material lust, up to all of it, it can be overcome by coming to the mode of goodness, seeing things as they are. And in that state, it's not that we reject all those things necessarily. We just know where they fit in the puzzle. Like, we know where it fits in the puzzle. Like mating exists. Okay, it fits in the puzzle as mating. That's what it is. Don't try to build this whole illusion, mental concoction around it. Then you're gonna get in the whole suffering game, guaranteed. Therefore, you see it as it is. It's what it is. And only in that place can you really kind of drive your ship properly. You can control your ship properly. Therefore, Krishna says, Or actually, Rupa Goswami says, Vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam, uttaprasta vegam, etan vegam yobashaheta dira, sarvamapimam prativim sashishyat. Who is a real leader? Who is a real teacher? Vacho vegam, one who controls his speech. Manasakroda vegam, one who controls his mind, one who controls his anger. Uttaprasta vegam, one who controls his belly, his tongue, and his genitals. When you can control those 6 urges, sarvamapimam prativim sashishyat. Such a person is qualified to become a teacher for everybody. Srila Prabhupada was guru of the whole world because he was a perfect Goswami, perfect control of his senses. So the more we can control our senses, then we can develop good character. And that's why we have problems in the world, is it's just a big hoax. We see our leaders and they're just like the most degraded people. They're more degraded than the populace. And therefore, they don't have any control of their mind or senses. They're just being pushed around by the modes of material nature like anybody else. Such a person can't be a leader. Mohini Kishori.
That reminds me to clarify a few words in the translation.
Ooh.
When it says namely the forefathers, does that mean worshiping your family?
Yeah.
Or being attached to family? And then it says other living beings. Would that mean I don't know, superstars, idols,
yes.
Politicians?
It also means people who worship the Petries, they got to go to the grave and they, offer things to the dead and that type of thing. You see it, And there's space for that. People go to the Petri planet, right, where they live with the forefathers. They're attached to family. They want to relive their family, so they go back with the family. And all the family goes to this planet together, and then they all join together as family again. That's a real sick place.
Yeah.
No, I mean, really, it is. It's just it's this attachment to the body.
Yeah.
Better expand your idea of family to everybody. Actually, our family is in Krishna Loka. That's our family. We have friends there, better friends. We have friends in Goloka Vrindavan. We have friends up there that are really waiting for us, that love us. And then, who's the representative of those friends is the guru and the devotees. They come and then they're helping us to elevate ourselves to this consciousness. That's why, you develop that, when you develop a consciousness of I'm a servant, and you really go out with this idea that I have a mission. This is what for those who are, been devotees for a long time or are situated in this kind of practice, go out and do something for Krishna. Try to spread Krishna consciousness. Try to elevate the people around you. Don't make friends and enemies. This is my enemy. This is my friend. No. Every person, you can elevate them. You just have to, sometimes elevating someone means I'm staying away from them. Here's a piece of prasadam, Sometimes elevating them means something else. Sometimes it means becoming their friend, helping them, taking them under your wing. But in any case, we don't have that idea, become samadarshana. We become sober-minded and see that everybody's a spirit soul, everybody's part of God, and everybody deserves my respect. Not everybody deserves my association. Not everybody deserves to be in my space. Not everybody deserves to be my friend or to have me talk to them or to have me, even want to be near them. But everybody deserves my respect. So anyways, concluding that point is important, that we're pushed by the modes of material nature. And we have to not be pushed. How are we not pushed? The primary thing to understand, if you don't want to be pushed by the modes of material nature, develop a service attitude. Develop a service attitude by surrender. Surrender to a spiritual authority who is Vacho Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaparasta Vegam. Someone who's really controlling the mind, the senses, like our mother Sandamani. All of this technically owns how much money's coming in through Govinda's. Yet she lives simpler, works harder, does more things, has less sense gratification than every single person on this campus, guaranteed. Yet she is the person who handles everything. She goes to bed, 8 o'clock, she wakes up at 2, she chants her 16 rounds, she does service all day long. Where's her vacation? I mean, she takes a day off once in a while to keep herself, okay. Where's her time for, it doesn't exist. She's always serving her guru, Srila Prabhupada. Such a person can be a leader. If you try to just learn from such a person, then you can become free from the modes of material nature. You become free of that push. Because sometimes it's like you see, like, there's, material pleasure. And the mind is just, here I go. I got to make a plan. I got to get it. That's how it goes. I got to make a plan. I got to approach it. I got to talk to so-and-so. I got to go make money and get it. I got to do it, And, we have to be able to say, no, mind, no. That does nothing to do with my service. And then we develop attachment to Krishna. We become strong. And we become enthused. We become happy. Krishna says, right? We heard the verses, Ganga Mantri, or Sureshwar Prabhu this morning gave a nice class. He quoted those verses that the one who can tolerate the incessant flow of desires, which are like rivers going into the ocean, which is always being filled but ever still. Such a person who doesn't strive to satisfy such desires can attain real peace. So when the mind starts telling you, you need this, you need that, I got my program. My main business is just to serve God. That's it. In that state, you make a lot of waves. Open the door.
You better protect me if there's something
Maybe must have been a little friction or something. Well, he could have come in. Okay, let's move on.
So you're saying I was interested in learning about Shiva because I'm lazy and drink too much?
No, Shiva's
coincidence.
Shiva is also a living entity that is immensely powerful in benefiting and benefacting all living entities for spiritual elevation. Shiva is not in the mode of ignorance. Shiva is in control of the mode of ignorance, yet he is not influenced by it, not whatsoever, because he is. He says, he actually says, I'm always in Vasudev Sattva. I'm always in the state of pure unalloyed goodness. And Shiva is considered the greatest devotee of Krishna. He's the greatest. He's the spiritual master, the most spiritually elevated being in the universe except for God himself.
And Radharani.
In the universe. In the material universe. Those are different. Those are transcendental. Actually, Lord Shiva is also one of the 5 entities in Vrindavan. Not saying he's on Radharani's level, but there's 5 people that can give you residence in eternal in Goloka Vrindavan. Giriraj Govardhan, Tulsi Maharani, the dust of Vrindavan, Lord Shiva in the form of Gopeshwar Mahadev, and the Yamuna River. So, anyhow. So no, it's not that. But we have some attraction to, based on our modes. But then actually it's good, that attraction. We just, we don't worship Lord Shiva as like, we can learn about him, know about him. There's so much to learn. We don't worship him as our deity because, ultimately he's going to lead you to Krishna. That's a fact. And I've seen it. We've seen it. We have one of the biggest Shiva worshippers I've ever met here. He's not here tonight. He's watching online. But anyways, he was a big Shiva man. Shiva led him to Krishna. Even our friend Nityananda Prabhu, right? From Dallas. He was a big worshiper. He hated the devotees. He hated them. He was like, I hate the devotees. He did. He tried to get them kicked out of Fiji. And he had a whole thing. He was going to kick them out. And he had the whole courts and everything. And he was reading the Shiva Purana. And the Shiva Purana, it says you should find your guru. You need to have a guru if you're going to be spiritually elevated. So someone said, how about you come tonight and actually hear one of these gurus talk? And Tamal Krishna Goswami was speaking. And Tamal Krishna Goswami just blew his mind so much that he went home and he was thinking, I don't know what to do. And then he read in the Shiva Purana that even your enemy can be your guru. And he was like, he's my enemy though, in court. And then he went to sleep and Lord Shiva came in his dream and said, you fool, that's your guru. And so then he woke up and he went to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, don't accept me blindly on your dream. Chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds and follow 14 full regulative principles for 1 month. And if your life doesn't change, I'll personally leave Fiji. Yeah. And he became a devotee. And he became a GBC and a temple president. Okay, let's finish the chapter, huh? Maybe we'll go a little bit into, we'll go over chapter 3 and then we'll just smash that chapter next week fast.
28, 29.
You want to read, Shana? In English, you can read English.
In the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Yoga is for realizing him. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. He is the supreme goal of life.
This is beautiful. Vasudeva Paraveda, Vasudeva Paramukha, Vasudeva Parayoga, Vasudeva Parakriya, Vasudeva Paragyanam, Vasudeva Paratapa, Vasudeva Paradharmo, Vasudeva Paragati. That's very beautiful. So Vasudeva is Krishna. So Vasudeva Paraveda, he's the supreme knowledge. Paramakya, he's the supreme purpose of all sacrifices, all spiritual activities. Vasudeva Para Yoga. Yoga exists for realizing Krishna. Vasudeva Para Kriya. All activities are rewarded by Krishna. Vasudeva Para Jnana. Krishna is the supreme knowledge. Vasudeva Para Tapa. All austerities are performed to know Krishna. Vasudeva Para Dharmo. Religion is loving service to Krishna. Vasudeva Para Gati. And Krishna is the supreme goal of life. That's it. All right. You guys know everything now. That's all. That's all it is. That's the Bhagavatam right there. So that's answering question 4. About the Purusha Avid. Oh, that's what we're going to get to now. Yeah, so anyways, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatamam Shantam Richati. Srila Prabhupada explains that, not Srila Prabhupada, Krishna himself explains, but that when one understands, well, Krishna is saying, when one understands, first and foremost, you want to be peaceful? Who wants to be peaceful?
Yeah.
This is it. This is how you become peaceful. First and foremost, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. Krishna, God, is the reason you perform anything and do anything. Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. All yagya, all sacrifices, and all austerities. Everybody know what an austerity is? Is that clear?
Fasting or something?
Yes. Austerity is something a hardship we put on ourselves to realize something higher. So, well, we also do austerities for material things, right? How many people do austerities for money? Right? I've seen people, they don't want to get up for Mangalarti. They will not do it, but they'll get up for money. Oh man, they will get up for money. I've seen it. Yeah. Nope, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Money? Oh yeah, I'm there. I've seen it so many times. Not for Krishna, though, no way. So, but when you understand that really Krishna is your wealth. Krishna is the wealth. He's the wealth. You'll have more money. You worship Krishna, you'll have more money. You'll never worry. And they'll cry, oh, I lost my sweetheart. They won't cry for Krishna. I'm talking about myself too. I'm not putting anybody out. Really not. I'm talking about myself. And we've all maybe cried over a breakup or something before, And we broke up with Krishna, lifetimes and lifetimes ago, but still waiting for those tears. When are we going to cry for Krishna? And so Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam, when one realizes that Krishna is the Bhokta, he's the enjoyer of this Yagya and this Tapa. And when we realize Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he's the Lord of everything. So how many of you have suffered before to do something greater, right? So if we're suffering and Krishna is the Lord of everything, that means Krishna is he's in control of the suffering, right? Which now it's kind of scary. That means this guy's in control of me, but he's also Suridam. He's our best friend. Everything's for our benefit. If you understand that everything I do is for Krishna, Krishna is in control of everything, and Krishna is my best friend, Yatamam Shantam Richati. Such a person becomes fully peaceful. Prabhupada says it's the peace formula. You can write it down. Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Go read the verse. Read it every day. You'll get peaceful. Watch. Honestly, if anybody was feeling like I was, like some people were making faces at me when I said that. I wasn't. No one was being called out. No one was being called out. We all have our things we do that we need to do for Krishna more. No one was being called out.
That's right.
Right, okay. Alrighty, now we're going to hear about the high-level theology of the Vishnus. Tarlaksh, you should read. And then Jesse.
In the beginning of the material creation, the absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy.
So basically we're hearing that from Krishna, in his transcendental operation, he created the energies of cause and effect by his own energy. So ahame vasame vagre, nan yad yat sat asat param. Krishna is beyond cause and effect. It's important to understand, believe it or not, that God is beyond the cause and the effect. He's sarva karana karanam. He's the cause of all causes. He's the one who is there's the big bang and then there's the big banger. He's the big banger.
He's energetic too.
Yeah, he's the energetic. And there's the energy and there's the energetic. He's the banger and he's the bang.
Yes.
So
We're beyond it too, right?
no,
In our like, constitutional position, are we also transcendental to anything material? Causality is
we are, but still he's even the cause of us. Even though it seems like we're all eternal, he's still the cause. He's still beyond everything. Krishna is still beyond the jiva by infinitely beyond where we can ever be. Although we're constitutionally and qualitatively the same, he's still infinitely beyond us. And I mean, it's inconceivable. God is infinitely beyond everything.
I know we're beyond the causal plan.
Yes.
We transcend that.
Yes. Even in a sense, though, he's still the cause of the jiva. He's the cause of the internal potency also. It's still his energy. What is the verse? I was nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam. Okay. So now we're going to hear about the super soul.
What is Vasudeva?
Vasudeva is a name for Krishna. Vasudeva is Krishna, that's more or less in a sense that's less affectionate term, like it's more of a official term. Yeah. Well, Vasudeva means the Lord of consciousness, all-pervading personality of Godhead. Thank you, Jamuna, for coming. Hi, Krishna. Granga.
Couldn't it also be an affection term because he's the son of Vasudeva?
Yeah, and I'm aware of that. I just was answering it more of a in the context we're talking about. Because Vasudeva is, from Vasudeva. Okay. Go ahead and read the next verse.
After creating the material substance, the Lord, Vasudeva, expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position.
So it's something we have to understand is that you have to notice sometimes we don't take these things seriously. You know how many times Krishna repeats this fact that although I'm in the world, I'm not of it. Although I'm not in the world, I'm not of it. Although I'm in the world, I'm not of it. Don't ever think I'm conditioned. Krishna says that time and time again. And he says, what does he say? What does he call you if you think that?
My life?
Muda, Mama Muda. He says you're an ass if you think that. He says, Mama Muda. You're Muda. Avajananti mam Muda, manusim tanumashrita. Param bhava majananto gyata buddhitamavyayam. Gyata buddhita, no. Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram.
But that is also the definition of a Maya body. Yes.
Yes, the actual definition of a Maya body is they think that Krishna is influenced by Maya. They think Maya is God. That's what makes them Maya body. Maya is God, the supreme. Even Maya can control God. That's their whole total illusion. So we should understand that this is saying that God enters into the creation. He's in it and he's maintaining it. He's doing everything in it. Yet he's unaffected by it.
Oh my God.
He's completely neutral. And therefore it says, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakti namortinha matstani sarvabhutani nachaham teshavashtaya. Right? That, O Arjuna, behold my mystic opulence. Although I am inside everything, I am not part of this material world, he says. So, therefore, we have this word super soul. And that you're the soul, and within your heart is also the super soul, Krishna, who is Mama Bhuta he's the overseer and the permitter. He's permitting and over bhokta. He's the bhokta. He's the enjoyer. He's overseeing and permitting everything. If we want to move our hand, he has to facilitate. He has to sanction it. We have the desire, he sanctions. Man proposes, and God disposes. And if God doesn't dispose, but we propose, no bueno. Don't work. Right? Doesn't work. All right, let's go to the next.
So if there's like a crime being committed, like he's allowed to just be like, no, you can't do that because you can permit or deny any actions.
Yep.
Are you really gonna tell you committed a crime?
So
Okay,
what you're asking is, why is God letting this happen?
Right, because like he can deny it while still not violating our free will, right?
Well, here's the answer. This is discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam elaborately. If you really want to know the answer fully, go to the 7th canto and read chapter 1. But in short, Yudhisthira asks this question, or Shukadev Goswami, or Maharaj Parikshit asks this question to Sukadeva Goswami. And the first chapter of Canto 7, chapter 1 is called God is equal to everyone. And it's because of the modes that God is rewarding according to mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. And wherever someone finds themselves in, that's their own choice. He's simply like a high court judge. High court judge is neutral. He's going based on the evidence and he's giving punishments based on the evidence. Someone's guilty, therefore Prabhupada uses his fancy, Prabhupada sometimes uses some interesting language that, sometimes the killer is put before a firing squad, Prabhupada says. But the idea is that the high court judge is not responsible. He's sanctioning according to what the karma is of that person and this person. And God's so powerful and miraculous that, the killer and the killed are both fulfilling their karma and going to have to suffer the results. But what does he say? If you want to change that, he says, I am equal to everyone. I'm not envious of anybody and I'm equal to everyone. But to my devotee, I'm a friend. I'm a friend. And so for the devotee, he'll make arrangements. He'll change things. Otherwise, it's all just the system. He's not taking any personal interest. He's not, from the perspective of someone who's not a devotee, God has just set the system forward. And he's just checking the marks, But when one becomes a devotee, everything changes. Now I'm in a relationship. Now I've called him personally. Now he'll make a difference. He'll change. He's sweet. He loves us like that. Otherwise, he has a system doing it. But if someone's in the mode of goodness, they're rewarded accordingly. And so the question's asked, why is it that the demigods always beat the demons? Right? That the question's asked by the sage, by the king. They do. They always do. They always come out victorious. So why is that? Because the demigods are in the mode of goodness. And so the mode of goodness always has a better result than the mode of ignorance. And so it appears from our perspective of duality that the demigods are superior and winning and the demons aren't. But the Lord, when he appears, although he kills the demigods, kills the demons and saves the demigods, the result is exactly the same. The demigods get liberated and the demons get liberated. Because Krishna is neutral. He doesn't hate anybody. But I encourage you to read that chapter.
I've also heard like there is no such thing as like bad or evil. Like there's only good. So are crimes not actually bad?
I've said that many times in classes. There's only ignorance and knowledge. Someone's in goodness. Someone has knowledge. How can I go kill someone for no reason? Right? If someone has knowledge, isavasyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatam jagat. Everything belongs to God. Therefore, one should only accept his quota. This is knowledge. Prabhupada's last words. One who understands everything belongs to God. He is Krishna conscious and uses everything for God's service. This is real knowledge. That's real knowledge. You use real knowledge, you don't kill anybody. Unless it's like, in Arjuna's case, it's different. But when one is in ignorance, they think this is mine. Aham mameti. This is I and mine. They're thinking I and mine. And therefore I will fight over what is mine, although it's God's. I'll only have it for a few years and then I'll be dead and it'll be someone else's. And I'm attached to my wife and my husband and my family. And then gone, finished. And so as that delusion goes deeper into the mode of ignorance, one is impelled to act according to the mode of ignorance. And one is impelled to suffer the results of those actions. But God is neutral. And so there's no evil. It's not that there's some devil out there. He's against God. That's a misconception. But there is ignorance. And that ignorance is what evil is a manifestation of. But when one is in knowledge, God is the kind friend of all. You can't understand. He's the kindest, the sweetest, the most loving, most amazing person ever. Krishna is the sweetest. No one is sweeter than Krishna. Come on. No one in the world can be sweeter and more loving and a better friend who you can spend all your days with than Krishna. He's the sweetest. But if I don't know that, then to the degree I'm in ignorance of that reality, fear. Fear means understanding my surroundings. That's what the root chakra writes, my surroundings. Now, if I understand my surroundings, this is all Krishna. If I understand that, and I'm not this body, that's ultimate knowledge of my surroundings, then I have nothing to fear. I have nothing to fight and to act like an idiot or a fool. But to the degree that I'm in ignorance, I'm this body. I'm going to die. Now I'm going to act in so many crazy ways. It's all the modes. Red, white, and blue, man.
Oh my God.
Next verse, please. Finish the chapter. Then we'll smash chapter 3 next week. No problem.
Don't we have 33 and 34?
Yes. We have 3 verses left. We're finishing the chapter though. Have to. Because we spent too long in this chapter right now.
Super soul, is that the one? No. The Lord as super soul pervades all things. That one?
Yeah.
The Lord as super soul pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without sight.
Is that understandable? Someone can explain that to me. What does Sutta Goswami mean by this? So just as fire permeates wood, it means that the fire is in the wood. When you heat it up, the wood lights on fire. So in the same way, God is in everything. Although it appears different. Like, he's a microphone, human, dog, cat, whatever. But he's in all these things. And when those things are spiritually enlivened, you see the beautiful, pure soul. Okay, that was the answer to question 4. Now we're going to get more answers. Answer to question 3. We're at 33, 34, right?
33.
Someone can read?
The super soul.
Yeah, go ahead.
The super soul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind.
So Krishna is entering the living entities, and he's essentially sanctioning the types of enjoyments. There's a verse that explains this perfectly. Purusha prakriti stohi, bhakte prakriti jangunam, karnam gunasango syada sad yoni janmashu. So Krishna is so, no one can be Krishna. The way he communicates in Bhagavad Gita is just so amazing. Purusha prakriti stohi. Purusha means the living entity in this case. Purusha prakriti stohi, the living entity situated in stohi, in prakriti, in the material world. Living entity in this world. Purusha prakriti stohi. Bhakte means what? Enjoying. Bhakte and suffering. Bhakte prakriti jan gunan. Jan means birth. Gunan means mode. So the living entity situated in this material world is enjoying various types of enjoyments and suffering, born of Jan Gunan, born of the modes of material nature, passion, ignorance, and goodness. Why? Karnam gunasango syad. Because he is associating with those modes. Therefore, sad asad yoni janmashu. He is taking births in sad and asad, good and evil wombs. He's taking birth in higher planets and lower planets because of enjoying from the modes. But upadrastat numantascha, in this body, upadrastat numantascha, bharta bhokta maheshvara, there's another transcendental enjoyer known as the Paramatma. Paramatmeti chapyukto dehismin purusha parai. Dehismin purusha parai. In the body, there's another enjoyer who is para, he's supreme. And therefore, he is Bhokta, he's permitting. Bhokta, he's the enjoyer. Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaram, he's the enjoyer, he's the master, and he's the supreme controller. Upadrasta Numantascha, he's the overseer and he's the permitter. That's the God within our heart. So he's awarding us the results of our actions. So one can ask, where's free will? Where's free will? What's our free will? Someone explain to me free will.
Your desire.
We have the free will to desire whatever we want. We have that free will. Who has to fulfill that desire? Only God can fulfill that desire. And if we have the karma, he will. But when we desire him, he'll drop everything to make that desire happen. Doesn't matter where you're at. That's our free will. We have the free will to choose Maya or the free will to choose Krishna. That's it. That's our free will. And to the degree we're in Krishna consciousness, we're free. Or that's the big trick. People think you follow 4 regulative principles. You're giving up illicit sex. You got meat eating and intoxication. How could you be free? That's the thing. You see people see me dressed like this. The first question they ask is, "What can't you do?" They don't understand that I'm free. I've been entangled. I know what it's like. The mind is so contorting and trying to figure out how to enjoy. Try to figure out how to make this thing work. It's just a mental concoction. We got to make it work. It's really, that's how it is, We create these mental illusions, these mental ideas. My family, my relationship, my life, my job. It's all in the mind. And we got to make it work. But when we free ourselves up, now I'm free of all these mental constraints, these desires, because I'm following the regulative principles of freedom. And I'm not doing these activities that cause very bad entanglement. Illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, intoxication. These entangling activities. Now I'm free of these activities. And therefore, I have more free will. How much free will does an addict have? If you've been an addict, you don't have very much free will. I can't help it. I need to use. That's not free will. You're under bondage. You think I'm making the choice, but you can't. You can't even make the choice because you're totally so deep in the mode of ignorance that you're forced to. Right? Whether you're addicted to drugs, addicted to sex, addicted to money, addicted to gambling, you're addicted. You're forced. And we're all addicted to Maya in this material world. We're all addicted to enjoying the material world. But when you become addicted to Krishna, now you're free. You have no business here. No business in this world. And therefore, I'm free. So Krishna is in the heart and he's rewarding the results of your desires. Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaram. He's the master, the enjoyer, and the supreme controller. Upadrasta Numantascha. And he is the overseer and permitter, meaning he's permitting you to do what you want to do. If you want to go kill a guy, Krishna says, all right, you're permitted, you can do it. And this guy over here, wait a minute, let me make sure that this guy deserves that. And there goes. Krishna's neutral, but this guy's suffering his karma, and you're going to have to suffer your bad desire. But Krishna's neutral. Therefore, how is it that some living entities appear to be in positive circumstances and some living entities appear to be in negative circumstances? Based on their association with the modes of material nature. That make sense?
Yeah.
Carol actually looking at me like she's like,
Pretty sure.
So go out and go get in the mode of goodness, people. Go get in the mode of goodness. All right, last verse, huh? Finish it. We'll have a big party now.
Thus the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness.
Alrighty, so this is kind of interesting, huh? Because that's something we don't hear about generally in the Christian world. God has pastimes.
He's not just there.
He's not just a blob in the sky. He's not just a guy in the sky on a white cloud with a big beard. You know, they're ruling. No, he has activities. And his activities in the spiritual world are one thing, but his activities in this world are, right? He says, I'm coming here to destroy the miscreants and to deliver the devotees and to establish religion. What's the verse? Oh, my verses are all getting jumbled now. So I was memorizing verses all day, so they're all jumbled, jumbly job. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chudiskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
You just needed a minute to like load, you know.
Paritranaya sadhunam. He's coming to protect the saints and to destroy the miscreants. So in that way, God is working, but he's neutral. This is just his service here he's doing. And he's the Lord of all the planets. And he appears in this universe to reclaim us. And that doesn't just mean him. That also means his associates. All of the divine Leelas, including that of Jesus Christ. This is the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to reclaim fallen and conditioned souls. He's calling us back. And so Krishna appears in this world periodically and performs activities, divine activities. God is a person. That's the highest level of understanding. Beyond just the Brahman, beyond the Paramatma, then there's the Bhagavan. And so he basically reveals that Supreme Person. He reveals himself to you via the line of disciplic succession, via the devotees. And he says, you know, to just conclude with this verse, he says that this is the most confidential thing you can possibly know. Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavritamidam Uttamam Pratyak Savagimam Dharmam Susukam Kartamaviyam. He says that you're Susukam, that if you understand this, you become very, very happy. And he says it's Pratyak, that you experience by yourself the self-realization in your heart. You see it. You actually experience, without a doubt, this God consciousness. It's self-convincing. And therefore, it's Rajaguya, it's the supreme secret. Rajavidyam, it's the supreme knowledge. Pavitam idam uttamam, and it's the supreme pure. So I'm going to read this last thing, and then we'll ask if anybody has more questions, and we'll just, you know, have a beautiful week. It was a long week, guys, with that festival. Man.
So pure goodness is not the mode of goodness.
Pure goodness is no.
Like a transcendental.
Yeah, it's above.
Mode.
So nice. This is one of my favorite inspiring lines from the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says here, he says, there are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, that's where we're at, folks, every living entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Krishna is now speaking to himself. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and the Vedas as that Supreme Person. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharat. This is the most confidential part of Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. It's very inspiring to me because you read the Vedas, and they teach you how to take care of your body. They teach you about the stars. They have all this accurate information about science. They have all this accurate, fighting. Everything you can imagine is in the Vedas. Then all this philosophy about spirit and matter, this unbelievable philosophy. And then it's leading you to this point that the most confidential thing you can know is that this personality, Krishna, that's the supreme knowledge right there, folks. It's Krishna. It's a real mind bender, as Nadi Bihari says. But one who understands this, he can experience that spiritual reality. So, any other questions, comments, reflections? Next week, we'll go over all the incarnations. It'll be fast because we're just going to be reading about the incarnations of Krishna. We'll probably finish it all in 1 week. Then we'll do a chapter 4. It's a nice chapter.
How many incarnations? Like 19?
There's unlimited incarnations of God.
The ones that are described in the Bhagavata Sanga?
I'm not sure how many are in the chapter. Look at my notes. Thank you all. No more ice and prasad today, no?
No, I didn't have time.
Dang.
I told Tarlash to make popcorn.
I got.
Yeah, you probably- next time. Next time.
Omar, we're like, no, we're not gonna do this week.
I had this feeling that Omar wasn't going to make something tonight, and I was thinking, that's why I was thinking like she should